We continue to read literary masterpieces because they are works of imagination in which we discover the truth about ourselves and our interactions with others.
Let's just look back at the Dionysian festival a bit, and the term goat, the goat song. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I mean the word tragedy it has two parts. The tragos in Greek means goat, and oides means song, as in we have the word ode, you see. So your tragedy was this goat song. Why? Because the goat was one of the sacrificial animals. In the Dionysian festival, you had these satyrs, you know, which are humans with goat-like features. And they were both, let's say, the victimizers and then the victims of the sacrifice. So the Tragedy Festival was a goat song festival. And it became more, how shall I say, more musical, more poetic. It never ceased to be about religion. There are no Greek tragedies which are not about religion, because Greek culture, like all cultures, needs some kind of sense of divine sanction, you know, some higher sense of values that guarantee that we're okay to do what we're doing. And they're constantly, the Greeks, the genius of the Greeks is they're constantly interrogating their relationship to the sacred and to the divine. And most focally in this play, in most of Sophocles' plays, their relationship to what is essentially human, which is to say, violence. Now we'll get to see why and how that's the case as we go into detail.
Well, and the Dionysian myth and the festival associated with it is a rather violent one, is it not?
Well, yes. I mean, the sacrifices or replay of violent forces in the culture, and the way to deal with the violence was eventually to sacrifice someone or some groups of people who were seen as the origin of this violence. And so you expel the scapegoat. We call that person the scapegoat, but for the Greeks, that person was a god of sorts, because in sacrificing the victim, you have harmony, you have unanimity. And we'll see how that cashes out in this play. The point is this: he shall be king. And the question is, well, why should he be king? Well, because in a sense he's the king by default. But he makes a decree, and he makes it fully believing that he is doing the will of the gods. And this is where we get into the tragic crisis, because both he and Antigone feel they're doing the will of the gods. Now, the king's job is to maintain order, and the king's job is to clarify the difference between good and bad violence, between friend and enemy, which every culture sooner or later does. And in a sense, he does what we do today. He invents an enemy. That is to say, Polynice is the enemy of the state. Antigone says, I will lie, and when she explained to her sister what she's going to do, she says, I will lie with the one I love and loved by him, an outrage sacred to the gods. You see, not burying her brother is a sacrilege, you see. And Creon will say very much the same thing. He says, so I rate anyone now, whoever places a friend above the good of his own country, he is nothing. I have no use for him. Zeus is my witness. Zeus, you see all things, always, you see. He is also citing divine sanction for his decree. I could never stand by silent, watching destruction march against our city, putting safety to rout, nor could I ever make that man a friend of mine who menaces our country. Remember this, our country is our safety. That's political rationality. That's something we're still dealing with today.
But that's the mix of religion and politics,
yes.
That right? Can you talk about when those get intertwined, or when are they ever not intertwined?
Well, I think that's the question. When are they never not intertwined? Both Antigone and Creon, her uncle, feel that they are doing the will of the gods. Both think that the other is a sacrilegious, impious person, a threat to the civil and political order. What happens is that Antigone is arrested, and by the way, the conversation, the dialogue between Antigone and Creon starts out as an interrogation. You did it, you know you did it, yes I did, for this reason and everything. And then it heats up and it becomes an angry dispute. Then she is sentenced to death. Then Tiresias comes along. He's the prophet, he's the oracle, he represents the holy. He is the voice of the gods in the culture. And he comes and tells Creon, the sacrifices don't work. We can't do the augury. Obviously the gods are not, in favor of this decision. We're talking about the religious and the political and how they are supposed to be harmonized and reconciled. And in this play, they come into conflict. And the fact about human reality that Sophocles understands, that so many of our great writers understand, that René Girard brings forward, is the fact that nothing on the planet is more danger to humans than other humans. We are the most danger to ourselves. And every culture, the central problem of every culture, however we name it or misname it, is how to deal with human violence. The Greeks and most archaic cultures have these sacrificial festivals and mechanisms which channel the violence against someone groups who are deemed to be the source of the violence. You destroy those people and you have harmony, because you have a circle and the victim is the center and everybody in the circle. You have unanimity minus one. This is what Creon thought he achieved by making Polynices into roadkill, into carrion. His son resists or challenges that decision, and then Tiresias, the voice of God, the oracle, the prophet, comes along to tell him what is the problem. And what he's saying, that the sacrifices, the augury, doesn't work. He says, as I sat on the ancient seat of augury in the sanctuary, where every bird I know will hover at my hands, suddenly I heard it, a strange voice in the wing beats, unintelligible, barbaric, a mad scream. Talons flashing, ripping, they were killing each other. That much I knew. The murderous fury whirring on those wings made that much clear. So the birds are killing each other, the way the twin brothers were killing each other. This failed sacrifice, the birds are to be sacrificed, and then you examine their entrails and you understand what the God's will are or is. The fact is, we don't believe in that, but if you do believe it, you get unanimity. It almost doesn't matter. And here, the birds are behaving like a civil war. And he goes on to say, the prophet says, the rites failed that might have blazed the future with a sign. And it is you, your high resolve, that sets this plague on Thebes. Well, obviously, he's the king. And if their birds are indicating the gods are not in favor, who is you going to find responsible for this? Not the slave, not the merchant, nor the soldier, but the head man. The public altars and sacred hearts are fouled, one and all, by the birds and dogs with carrion. You see? The symmetry, the parallel between the carrion of Polynices rotting in the fields that his sister will give ritual burial to, and this situation. Creon, I'm in no mood to trade insults with a seer. He doesn't want to get into this fight. Neither does Tiresias. But blow for blow, they're both sucked into this mimetic vortex. Mimetic violence, violent reciprocity. And they both, we'd say, they lose it. Tiresias, you have already calling my prophecies a lie. Creon, you and the whole breed of seers are mad for money. Tiresias, and the whole race of tyrants lust for filthy gain. They're saying the same thing. And Sophocles, it checks out in the Greek. They're using the same words. The whole race. The wisdom greatest gift, twisted mind. What you have is a verbal duel, a war of words, which is also how violent acts. Violent always is responded to by more violence. And Tiresias even makes this more clear when Creon says, Tiresias says to Creon, prophet, not a bit of profit, not for you. Creon, know full well you'll never buy off my resolve. You see, still that money accusation. We always look around and see, well, people are taking bribes. That's the idea of corruption. Even today, we talk about corruption being financial corruption. It's the suspicion is alive and well in Athenian culture because they're an advanced culture and they're a mercantile empire. And money is something that is very dangerous to the religious and the political order, because if you pay the priest to get a nice prophecy, the whole religious edifice is going to go crashing down.
So trust is eroded then in the institution of
Yes.
the religious order, and then Tiresias is throwing the same insult back at Creon. So the political authority and religious authority now are they're accusing each other of.
Yes, exactly. And when they're accusing each other, you have neither. What I mean is, for instance, if you sacralize the political order, then your leader, your president, your king is absolute, and you have tyranny, you have despotism. If you politicize religion, you have no religion at all. Once humans start fighting over the gods, religion becomes an object of dispute and not precisely a source of reverence or of wisdom or of truth.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
talk about modern attitudes towards religion, many people would say that's a good thing, that religion is no longer looked to for guidance or is not respected anymore.
Well, yes, those people would say that because if, again, we imagine the culture as a circle at the center, well, at their center, they don't have God, religion, the Bible, or anything else like that. They have something like rationality or truth. So the people who are anti-religious, there's no culture without religion. It's a question of who your gods are. And in this case, they have their gods and their founding myths. Modern culture has its gods and its founding myths. And we dispute. I mean, religion and politics are always in this argument. And Sophocles sees the danger for Thebes because Tiresias, having been royally insulted of being corrupt and polluted himself, says, he lashes out to Creon with a curse. The chariot of the sun will not race through so many circuits more before you have you surrendered one born of your son's own loins, your own flesh and blood, a corpse for corpses. And we'll find out later that in fact his own son has rushed to rescue Antigone, finding her dead, rushes at his father, tries to kill him, doesn't succeed, and kills himself. But Tiresias has already augured this devastation. And there he says, there, reflect on that, tell me I've been bribed. So he's foretelling the future, but he's doing it out of vengeance. He's doing it in order to, let's say, not get even, to get the upper hand. He even says, those arrows are for your heart. Since you have raked me, I loose them like an archer in my anger. That is dangerously revealing because Sophocles sees that the prophet, the augur, the sacred, is now in a food fight with the political. Tiresias lashes out with a prophecy which will be fulfilled, but he doesn't do it because he's seeking divine message. He just wants to hurt Creon more than he feels hurt by him.
Right.
Yes.
So it's pointing out the situational aspect that the plot supersedes character here. It's not that these two
Absolutely.
are, failed human beings or whatever. They're caught up in the situation in which
Yes.
they're mirroring one another and it's escalating.
Well, yes, and frankly, I mean, we are all failed human beings because we all think we're nice and good and rational, and then we get into disputes and we lose it. We start saying things like, well, I don't agree with that. And then we move to another level and we say, well, that's wrong. And in no time at all, we're saying, well, you're a bigot and a liar. And that happens, and that's what happens in this play. And when the political and the religious come into competition, both they destroy each other, just the way the twins destroy each other. And Sophocles understands that. He also understands that, listen, I don't have a solution to this. We have gods. We'll pray to the gods. We'll make our sacrifices. And the play concludes with chorus, of course. And the chorus in Greek tragedy is always a third party, a witness to what's going on. And the chorus says at the end of the play, Wisdom is by far the greatest part of joy. And reverence towards the god must be safeguarded, you see. The gods have to have the last word at all times. And as long as we believe in that and sacrifice to them and maintain the ritual sacrifices, we'll have harmony, we'll have unanimity. The mighty words of the proud are paid in full, and mighty blows of fate. And at last long, these blows will teach them wisdom. So there is that accusation that Creon has been proud, that he has overreached. The Greeks have a word for it. It's called hubris. Hubris, we translate it as pride, but it means the humans who overreach for things that is not within their ken, etc. But in all fairness to Creon, at the end, he's lost his son, his wife has hanged herself. He has lost everything. He's really in the position, he's totally annihilated and abject. Antigone is the sacrificial victim of Creon's decree. Creon's decree is sacrificial, it scapegoats one brother as opposed to the other. But the genius of this play is that Creon is clearly shown to be working in a situation which is going to lead to tragedy because the tension, there's always tension between the religious and the political. That's true for Athens, that's true for our country, it's true for countries all over the world.